So the WWE have a habit of doing direct-to-DVD collaborations with other movies and shows, in which they'll shoehorn in wrestling that definitely doesn't need to be there, and the only real winner is Mr. McMahon's bank account. They've done this with Scooby-Doo, the Jetsons, and the Flintstones. However, their most horrendous one by far is Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania, a sequel that's about as necessary as eating glass. Surf's Up is the definition of a film that didn't need a fucking sequel. This actually really annoys me because the first one is so good. It's one of my favourite childhood movies, and this sequel, it just gives me the constant urge to scald my face with an iron while I watch my childhood die. The obvious reason it was made is money, but I can't see how it made much of that either. Apparently it grossed just over $1 million, which is lower than their Scooby-Doo stuff, but this had more expensive animation, and on top of the cost of the animation, they also had to pay the top tier wrestlers they were using to voice the characters. The more I look into this film, the more I question why it even exists. Was this even worth making? I don't know, but they made it. So without further ado, let's get into this absolute monstrosity of a movie. So the movie starts with a Where Are They Now sequence.
Are they still cool? Surf Edition.
This explains the events of the first movie, basically saying that Cody, the main character, sacrificed his chances of winning a surfing competition to save his friend, realizing that happiness is better than winning.
It's just really cool to have everything I need.
Well, that's until this movie came along and undid all of that development, so now he just seems to have forgotten that for the sake of the plot. We then see Cody in a flashback interview. This isn't actually part of the last film, it's just been badly shoehorned in so this movie makes sense.
I'm going to the Outer Banks to surf with the Hang Five, the best in the business.
Now the Hang Five are the wrestlers in this film, and they needed a way to integrate them into the movie, and what they've done is a stroke of genius. They said, get ready, they said, fuck the last movie, let's retcon absolutely everything but use the exact same plot because we're lazy fucks who can't be bothered to do anything original, just so you can have Swole John Cena Penguin. Well, they probably didn't say it exactly like that, but that's how it feels. Now, in the first movie, Big Z was his hero. The whole movie was based around him idolising Big Z, and what annoys me is this movie writes out the most important character for the sake of John Cena. We then get a surfing scene, and it's pretty obvious the animation has had a phenomenal downgrade. It's actually so bad, if you watch this side by side without prior knowledge, you'd think this one is the older one. I mean, it's expected with a lower budget, but it still looks horrendous. Anyway, we then cut to current day where Cody's being interviewed, and he immediately starts plugging his new surf school.
You want backflips? Huh, you got it. Tail rides? Huh, you got it.
This is just a painfully unfunny drawn-out joke that reintroduces all the main characters again. I tell you something about them, but every shred of character development is basically gone. Chicken Joe and Tank are the same, Lani's completely useless, and Cody is now a giant arsehole obsessed with winning, even though he spent the entire first movie realizing that winning isn't everything.
Famous, successful, a winner that everyone respects.
To be honest, man, I'm kind of like bored of talking about myself, so is that cool?
Although more interestingly, there seems to have been a devastating bird flu outbreak in between the 2-year time gap of the movies, because there's only 5 penguins on the entire island. There was tons in the last movie, but now there's only 5. Chicken Joe then shows up and gives Cody a Hang 5 poster.
Oh, thanks, Joe.
I know how much you like these super buff penguins.
Weird really, the guy has hundreds of sponsors. He could have given him a top-of-the-line surfboard, but no, just a poster he could have bought online. Seems like a very unsubtle plot device to me. Anyway, this triggers a flashback that introduces the wrestlers.
Put them together for the Hang Five.
So there's Mr. McMahon, who's a swole otter, Undertaker, who's a swole penguin, Triple H, who's a swole penguin, Paige, who's a puffin, and of course...
And his name is John Cena.
Who's a swole penguin. But they call him JC in this movie, not John Cena for some reason. As for their actual characters, it's just them in animal form, and every now and then they'll do their signature moves.
You can't see me.
Oh look, Triple H did his water spit, Undertaker did his eye roll, JC did You Can't See Me. That makes up for completely fucking the franchise. Also, their character designs are totally fucked. In the original, they were normal penguins, not on copious amounts of steroids. They all look completely out of place. The weirdest one is definitely Paige, because there's a seagull character who looks like a regular seagull. I mean, he does have frosted tips, but still, you get my gist. Then there's Paige, who's an anthropomorphic puffin creature. It's just weird seeing her because they're both supposed to be birds, but they look completely different. So back in the present day, the Hang Five are just there for some reason.
Hey, Hang Five! Ooh.
They're looking for a new member, but I'm not sure if they were aware there's only 5 penguins on this entire island.
I just wish you could milk a fish.
Why is he drinking that from a fish's anus? Look at that poor bastard's face. He's being felched by Mr. McMahon. Anyway, while having a barbecue, Mr. McMahon says he's got a magical talking conch that will tell them the location of the most dangerous surfing spot on the planet.
What's that, conch?
Right, I'll tell you what, you
Okay,
fat little
I'll tell you.
cunt.
This thing is never really explained, it just talks. We never hear it talk, it just does. He also says that this will be his final ride and he's retiring, so they need to look for a new member.
Because I'm retiring.
Well, he says that, but just wait until the end. So they all leave on the whale, but before I continue, I want to mention that the first movie had a mockumentary style, and that's what made it unique. And this film tries to replicate that, but not really as well, because instead of going for a mockumentary style, they've gone for like reality TV style cutaways. These never feel like they belong anywhere near the movie, especially when Paige just goes off on random tangents about how she wants her own reality TV show. So next we see them in the middle of a desert.
The taste of death. This is crushed whale bones.
Was that all for the sake of a joke? Because he's the Undertaker, so he likes death. Pretty sure that's fucking sand, what else would it be? And that's all of the humour in this movie, by the way. Every now and then the wrestlers will do their wrestling things, and that's about it. Genius, really, because they didn't have to come up with any actual jokes.
I slept like a corpse.
I hate this movie, by the way, if you haven't realised. Oh, and then the film shows off just how strong John Cena is. Was that where all the budget went for this movie? The rest of it looks like arse, but they have time to animate penguin muscles. Now honestly, I can skip the next 25 minutes of this movie. Nothing of merit happens. They surf down some sand, Tank wants to fuck his surfboard, and Paige rules. So much of this movie is just random filler. I'd say it's like 45% random filler, 5% surfing, and 50% me thinking about what Mr. McMahon did to that fish. Anyway, the next remotely interesting thing to happen is when they're playing on a super high tightrope and they all fall off a cliff. Right, okay, so this brings me to another issue I have with the movie. See, in the first movie, what they were doing wasn't that far-fetched. I mean, it is about surfing penguins, so it's not realistic, but in what they were doing, it was fairly grounded. Cody was just an ordinary penguin who wanted to be a great surfer. In this, everyone has Herculean levels of strength, and I'm not just talking about the wrestlers. Everyone's seemingly invincible, surviving falls through solid concrete, and they can warp reality itself to perform impossible tricks. It's about as far removed from the original as possible. After this, they have to fly over a lake of lava.
We sure didn't come this far to give up now.
It's one thing to ignore the first movie, but when you have to ignore the fact that birds can fly to make your movie work, maybe it shows you shouldn't have made it. In fact, this movie seems to ignore the fact that she can fly because it's inconvenient to the plot. Anyway, Cody fucks up and nearly gets Chicken Joe killed, so he decides he should leave.
He'll come back when he's ready.
But how can you be sure?
I've been where he's at. Trust me.
It's parts like this that make me wonder if they called him JC because it sounded cooler, or because it would double up as Jesus. What I'm trying to get at is that they're all so perfect. All the wrestling characters have nothing but good traits. They have the solution to everything at a moment's notice. I'm pretty sure the main characters play absolutely no role in this. They don't even need to be in it.
Surfing's awesome and all, but there are a lot more important things in life. You'll see.
So the others finally make it to the trenches.
Behold, the trenches.
Wait, I thought they said this was the most dangerous place to surf on the planet. It's just the boneyards from the first movie. It's the same thing. The only difference is there's lightning. Why is this so special? Oh, that's right. They had to pan out this movie, didn't they? So Lani and Chicken Joe chicken out, while Tank reluctantly goes with them. It all goes wrong. Undertaker almost dies. Cody saves Tank, and then John Cena saves them both.
And his name is John Cena!
Then Cody declines a spot on the Hang Five, learns the exact same lesson he did in the first movie, and Mr. McMahon says he's not retiring.
I'm staying.
Really?
So in the end, no one learned anything and absolutely nothing changed. So that was Surf's Up 2 Wave Mania. It's utterly terrible, as you can see. However, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. No, the reason I hate it is because it's completely unnecessary and retcons the first one for no reason. And I think it's my most hated movie so far simply because of that. I mean, it might just be me, but I have a deep hatred for this movie because all it does is constantly remind me of how good the first one is. It genuinely feels like there was no intention made whatsoever to even try and improve upon the first movie. If it had just left the first movie alone, I wouldn't be nearly as bothered. But it basically makes it non-existent. I could try and pretend this doesn't exist, but I don't think I can. Also, I can't unsee Mr. McMahon felching a fish. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.